Okay, I had 2 bolts break off on my water pump when I went to replace it. You can see I have beam clamps on there holding it in place, and that would probably last forever. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try drilling it out. If you want to make life easier on yourself as far as drilling it goes, but it's a whole lot more work because you got to remove this axle, which entails disassembling the passenger side assembly and removing this whole cradle here, and it would give you plenty of room to work. I'm going to attempt to just do it using a right angle air driven drill. Okay, if you're not already familiar, before you release the tension on your belt, you want to loosen the 3 bolts holding the water pump pulley on. Then loosen your belt, remove the bolts. I used Gorilla Tape to hold it out of the way. Here's where my broken bolt is that I'll be drilling out. And you won't be able to remove the pulley unless you remove the water pump, or in the case if your van's like this one where there's no indentation in the frame, you actually have to lower this side of the engine. You got to undo the motor mount on this side to drop it down a bit in order to get that pump out of there. I'm not going to bother that. It's not necessary. I'm just going to drill through, start with a small drill bit, see how centered it is, step up to the next size, drill through, try to adjust centering in the hole from there until I get to the final drill bit, which is a 1/4 inch drill bit, which will allow the 6mm bolt to pass through. And I'm just going to through bolt it. I'm going to have a nut on the rear of it, and that'll actually be stronger than original. Okay, I have it drilled through. I didn't get it quite on center, but it should be good enough. Okay, when I drilled through with the 1/4 inch, I could see the edge of the metal original bolt was still in there. You can see how it wasn't quite on center, and I was able to knock it with a chisel and pop it out and yank it out of there. I discovered that after I drilled with the 1/4 inch my final drill. When I did the 7/32, I probably could have knocked it out at that point. Once you wind up off the screw and hitting the aluminum, there's no steering it back into the screw, just because the aluminum's so much softer. So keep that in mind. And when you do this, you know, I think I have like 5 or 6 different drill bits I was using, working my way up. Have plenty of extras. They tend to go dull halfway through, especially those first 2 drills, until you get through to the other end of this bolt. Okay, because of the shape of the dog ear flange on the timing cover where the bolt goes through, first I had to use my die grinder to grind it down just a little bit, flatten it out, plus I buggered it up pretty good. So leveled that out, and I expanded the flat surface just a little bit. I didn't want to dig too much into the body where the impeller is, where the water flows, and I wanted to use these locking flange bolts, but there wasn't enough room. So what I did was I ground down one side of it, and it actually kind of locks it in place when I'm tightening down the bolt. And then on top of that, I'm going to put another nut to act as a lock nut in place, and I think I'll use some thread locker on there too. Okay, unfortunately I'm not able to show you, and obviously this is finished now, but one thing I wanted to bring up is after your bolt's broken off, you'll see the butt end of the bolt sticking out the back of the flange there. And you'll want to get a center punch, a drift punch, and dimple the middle of that bolt so you can get a grip on drilling into that. Unfortunately, I couldn't show you that because on both bolts I tried using easy outs. So I drilled into there and then started with the easy outs, which subsequently snapped off inside the bolt. So half of my battle was actually trying to get through that carbon steel easy out that was stuck in there. So don't go that route, just drill right through it. Okay, so there is the first one finished. Obviously the next one's up there. I bolted straight through. There's my flange nut, and that's another nut I put on top of there, and I threw some Loctite on there and cranked that down nice and tight. And like I said, I had to file this down. I used a flat metal file, as well as a grinding die to get up into there a little bit so that the nut would fit in place. The next one that you see up there will have this power steering hose in the way. So that, unfortunately, is not a flexible pipe. The drill, the air-driven drill, is going to bottom out here. So the thinner drill bits won't be too much of a problem because they're shorter, but as I get into longer drill bits, I'm probably going to have to take my grinder and cut those drill bits shorter just so that I can fit between here and there. There's a bolt up there bracketing this in, but that is a rigid pipe right up to the power steering pump. I don't want to flex that. I'm afraid if I do that, it's going to split right up at the power steering pump, and then I have one more headache to deal with. So now I'm going to try to tackle this one. Okay, this is just to give you an idea of where I'm working here. Yep, up in that tight little space. Okay, I got my second bolt in. I had to use, on both cases I used a flat file to kind of level out the rear side of the little dog ear there. That upper one, I buggered it a little bit. There was an easy out stuck in there, and I had to grind that out. And but fortunately, when I got down to the next to last drill bit, the core of the old bolt, what was left of it, little eighth of it or whatever, spun out with the drill bit, fell out, and I was able to thread the bolt through there without doing any more drilling. And got it all locked down now. We're in good shape. The other bolts have thread locker on it. There is a bolt, if you broke off the one back behind here, you could probably still get at it if you drop down the axle. The other two, see a dimple up there? That's where the butt end of the other bolt sticks through on the upper 12 o'clock position bolt. I don't see any way of getting that. If you have a welder, you can weld a nut to the end of the bolt. If I had a welder, that's what I would have done with these other two, but I don't have access to one, so I was stuck drilling it out. But between the heat and welding a bolt nut onto the end of the stub, if there is a stub in there, that combination usually lets you back it out. I've never done it myself though, because like I said, I don't have a welder available to me. But these are those two. I'm happy and relieved that I got that done. Last thing I'll do is I'm going to coat them with liquid electrical tape to put some protection over them, and that'll peel right off in the future if I go to replace the pump again.